Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back to the Mile 17 podcast. This is Colton, your host. And as always, I am so happy you are here to hang out. I am sitting here. I have been waiting for it to start dumping snow because I really get inspired and just like love the energy of some good snowfall. I'm here in Boston. We were supposed to get this like huge snowstorm, like the biggest snowstorm in 2 years, and they closed down everything. I got canceled from one of my jobs today. Like gyms were closing down, schools are closed. It's 10:30 and not a lick of snow outside. It's been raining because it's too warm, I think, to be snowing. But as I'm looking at my windows now, I am starting to see like some snowflake ish formations out there. So maybe we'll get a couple inches of snow, but I'm really not thinking that we're going to get this big old snowstorm. So, anyways, I digress from the snowstorm, the nor'easter that's not happening. And I know that I'm like holding my microphone. Usually it's kind of just like sitting on my table. I really need one of those boom arm things that I can just like sit back and chill and talk to you because this is not very aesthetically pleasing, me just holding this like stand. But I want to just like chill and like sit back. I'm always like sitting up like this and like it's so formal. I just want to chill and like sit back in my chair and relax and chat with you guys and gals, guys and gals, and all of the people out there listening to me. Okay, so I posted a reel, a story, a TikTok, a short, YouTube short, whatever platform you're watching me on. I posted a little video yesterday because something just was getting under my skin and I needed to just like get it out because I realized that after the Super Bowl, like I woke up the next morning and of course on social media, like everybody just had something to say. Everybody was so critical and passing so much judgment on anything that happened in the Super Bowl. I saw things on Travis Kelsey and how he treated his coach. I saw things on Taylor Swift and her reactions to what Travis was saying. I saw things on the 49ers, the Chiefs, and the halftime show, and who's saying the Star Spangled Banner and who sang America the Beautiful, like Reba, Post Malone, like all these things were just coming out with so much criticism and judgment and people just like having so many opinions on what was going on. And it really just got me thinking like, who is everybody that is just out here just like to criticize and to judge? And I realized that this is so relevant. Ooh, it is starting to kind of snow. It is so relevant to our lives because I can't even tell you the number of times that I've had like unsolicited advice, unsolicited comments from family, from friends, from just people in general about things that, I'm doing in my life or choices that I've made. And I think that you all can relate to that too. And it's very different if you're out there seeking advice and say you get on social media on Facebook and you post something like, what should I do? Like, should I leave this job? Should I move to this city? Should I buy this house? Should I buy this shirt? Like, if you're out there looking for advice, then you better be ready for everybody to come at you with their opinion and their judgment because that's what you asked for. But if you're just living your life and people are just like throwing in their 2 cents when you never asked for it, you've really got to kind of learn how to reframe this and control the way that you react. Because something that I used to do, and I still do sometimes, I catch myself still getting, my dog just sneezed. She's really not quiet. I used to get very worked up, and again, I still do sometimes, but it's happening less, about what people will say about my life, especially my loved ones, especially people who I care about their opinion and care about what they think about me. And I started to realize that if I can control the way that I respond and react to what they say, then it loses power. It loses control. It doesn't matter what anybody has to say. Anyways, back to what I was saying. I am really working on not being reactive and taking that power away from other people who have something to say about my life. And it's hard. It's a really hard line and boundary to draw because when you're talking about loved ones, whether that be family or friends, it could be your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandpa, your aunt, your uncle, your best friend. Like when there's people that you love, like you don't want to hurt them either. And I like to think that typically when these kinds of things are coming in, it's mostly from a place of love and maybe fear on their end. For the most part, I don't think that's always the case. I do think that sometimes this unsolicited advice and words and whatever they have to say is just like totally unnecessary. But would like to think for the majority of the time that it is coming from a place of love. And I try to reframe it that way. And it kind of helps me to just like move on from it and be like, okay, they're not trying to be nasty. They're not trying to like brew all this hate and nastiness inside of my body. Like maybe they're just genuinely concerned because this is the experience that they've had in their life and maybe haven't evolved to see that the world is changing and that the way of life can be different for so many different people. And so I try to just give the benefit of the doubt in those situations. But I'll give you a specific example from my life that I really had to work on and reframe my thoughts around this. So since November, my dog Ellie, who I've had since she was 9 weeks old, and she's almost 9 years old, is has been down in Tennessee with my sister, and it doesn't matter why. There were some things coming up in my life. I just thought, okay, it'll be kind of easier to just like have Ellie down there. It'll just like take so much pressure off of me. Like I know she's safe. I know she's well taken care of. Plus, like my sister gets to love on her. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't honestly matter. Here I am over exploiting myself, but I don't have to. And there have been multiple people that have said to me things like, "Oh, how could you leave her that long? Oh, poor Ellie. Like, she's probably so sad there without you. Like, when are you gonna go get her back?" Like, and at first I was getting so triggered and I was like, "Oh my God, like I abandoned my baby girl. She's probably so sad and so depressed. And how could I do this?" Like I started spiraling about it. And I eventually had to reframe the way that I was thinking about it and be like, no, like I know what's best for me. I know what's best for my dogs and for my family. And overall, it was just better for everybody involved that she was down there while we had some things to take care of and things to do. And once I kind of got to that place of like, who gives a shit what anybody else thinks about the situation, it freed me because I kept getting more and more comments about it. And just like, even, like I said, I don't think that they were coming from a place of just like nastiness and wanting to be mean and wanting me to feel a certain way. But once I was able to just kind of be like, okay, whatever, if that's the way you feel or if that's your opinion, like, I don't care, it freed me from having those feelings of like, I'm a terrible dog parent. Ellie's depressed. Ellie is probably wondering where I am. She thinks I abandoned her. She never thinks I'm coming back. Like, I don't have to feel that way anymore. And ultimately, it was my decision. And I don't have to explain myself to anybody. I never, ever asked anybody for their advice or if they thought it was a good idea that I took Ellie down there. Like, never, not one single time. So, what I noticed again from all this criticism and judgment that was happening from the Super Bowl and all the celebrities involved and the players, the coaches, the teams, like anybody that was involved in it is that like everybody that's passing all this judgment and criticism, like they're not the ones out there actually doing it. They're not the ones out there performing and playing the game or putting on an amazing show during halftime or before the show or before the Super Bowl. Like they're not the ones out there doing it. And it's so easy to sit in our own lives and be like, oh my God, can you believe like how they performed during this? Like they didn't really do a good job. Like, of course, it's easy to sit here and be like, oh my God, can you believe how they were doing that? Because we've never done that. And for me, I look at these performances and I'm not saying that like everything that I watch, I love and that everything that every entertainment artist or anybody in the industry is somebody that I would love to go see live and listen to, and that I wouldn't fast forward through the performance if I had the option. But that doesn't mean that like I don't respect it and don't think that like, oh, they're there for somebody. Like their presence, their music, their style is like inspiring somebody else and bringing joy to other people. Like it doesn't have to be for me, but I don't have to sit there and criticize and be like they suck, like they should have had somebody else do it. Like You know what I'm saying? And so, anyways, this is, yeah, I just become very passionate about this topic because it really, really hit me after the Super Bowl when between social media and just people, interacting with on a just daily basis. Like, and I'm not to say I don't love these people and enjoy conversation with them and none of that. Like, I'm not saying that. I just think that people are so overcritical and so quick to pass judgment, and I think that it's just a good reminder for all of us. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I think it's a good reminder for all of us to just maybe take a step back, take a look in the mirror, take a deep breath before we like go out and like say anything about all this, and just realize that like it's okay if we didn't love something. Like it doesn't have to be for me. It doesn't have to be for you. Like, but it's there for somebody. And I think the biggest overarching topic that I can kind of cover on this issue is Taylor Swift, because she has become such a force in the industry and has such an amazing platform, and people love her music, and especially women and younger women, like that generation just like idolizes her, and it's amazing and fabulous. And there's so many haters out there. There are people, I have heard so many things about people who like hate Taylor Swift and don't think she's a good artist and thinks she sucks at singing and is so tired of seeing her face on the NFL. And to me, it's comical that people feel that way because she's doing so much good for so many other people. Like she's actually out in the world doing so much good and influencing a whole generation of young women, especially. And not just women, men too, but like young boys, young girls. Like she's out there influencing and like creating such a positive and uplifting platform, and there's people out here criticizing and hating on her. And for me, I've said this before, like I don't have all Taylor Swift songs on repeat. Like there's some that I like and some that I'll listen to, but like I'm not like this diehard fan who's out there like idolizing Taylor Swift. But like I understand that like she is doing so much good for other people. And so for me, that's all that matters. Like she's not out there, you know, causing mayhem and being a terrible example for a generation. Like she's just out there throwing out her art, throwing out her music, and she's created such an amazing platform and business and life for like herself. And I just think it's, again, it's like comical how many people hate on Taylor Swift. So I digress from Taylor Swift. I just think it's a great example for people to kind of look at and be like, okay, why am I so angry that when I'm watching a football game that they talk about Taylor Swift and they put the camera on her? Like, why does that trigger me and make me so mad? Like, I think that's a great question for people to ask themselves. It's like, why is that making me so angry? And I would like to know the answer because it doesn't really make sense to me. And just because you're there to watch a football game, like it's not like they're showing Taylor Swift for the entire 2 hours of the game. Like it's a quick little snippet. They talk about her. Of course, the NFL does it. Like they're getting views, and it's also a business. Like they're getting viewership that they didn't have before because she's at these games. So why do you care? Is like my question. And if you have an answer, like I'd really like to know. So something, yeah, that I kind of thought about from this topic is if somebody is really focused in on their own life and focused on their goals and their vision and where they're going, they're not going to be worried about you. They're not going to be putting in their 2 cents and being so obsessed with what you're doing. And I think this really comes into play with, maybe the older generations, as far as I'm like, maybe your parents or maybe your grandparents or your aunts and uncles, because maybe they're at a point in their life where they're not striving for something great and they're just kind of comfortable in their own like life, and so they have more time to be invested in what you're doing and wondering why you're doing what you're doing. And I think if you are part of the older generation, I think there's just a way to reframe the way you're going about talking to younger people. Instead of like asking questions in a judgmental way and be like, oh my god, like why are you living this way, or why are you living there, or why are you doing this, or do you have that job, or why aren't you married, why don't you have kids? Like we're asked these questions constantly, and it's like it's a different way of life. Like the world has evolved. We are at a different place in life right now. And if you're not willing to evolve and change with the world, you're always going to be stuck in your way. And what I hear a lot from like the older generations are, oh, it's not like it used to be, or, I didn't like XYZ because, I liked the oldies. And it's like, things aren't the way they used to be. And duh, that's how it's supposed to be. That's the world, that's evolution. Like, in 20 years, when the next generation is kind of coming up through like the age I am now, like I hope it's not the same. Like I hope that we've evolved as a species and that things are getting better. And you can like look back and be like, oh yeah, it's so much worse than it used to be. And like, yes, of course, like there's things that there are issues, there are world problems. And as humans, like there's always going to be issues and things as a society and as a human race that we're working on, and some things may be getting worse, but on the flip side of that, like things are so much better too. Like, there's just think of how many things are so much more amazing today than they used to be. Like there's so much more awareness around, mental health. There's the LGBTQ plus community can like live out and open and not have to face as much scrutiny and criticism. There's, a lot more work in equality with like gender equality and female empowerment. Like all this stuff has like come rising, skyrocketing through the industry, where before like that stuff was like not even on the surface. Like you would never even see a gay couple out getting married, or you wouldn't see a woman CEO like taking charge of a company. And so to me, it's like I think we should embrace that evolution, and we should love that we're getting so much further along than we used to be. And along with that, like we're going to continue to have to work on things like that. Nothing will ever be perfect. There will always be issues. And so I think like what I'm trying to say is like you can either be stuck back in 1980 when you grew up, or you can evolve with the times and realize that we're not in the 1980s, we're not in the 1990s, we're not in the early 2000s. Like we are evolving, and there's always going to be change. So you either get left behind or you evolve with the times and stay up to date with what's going on. And as I was thinking about this episode and what I really wanted to hone in on and give some sort of like tangible advice to people was, if you're really struggling with getting that unsolicited advice and it like hits you and you're struggling with just like processing it and moving on from what people said, whether that be your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandpa, like whoever you look up to, if you're struggling with what they said to you, if they do not have the life that you want, the exact life, like if you look at their life and you don't think that is the exact life I want to live, then stop freaking caring what they say. Like, seriously. And that's not to say that your grandparents or your parents or somebody in your family or your teachers or your boss or whoever doesn't have good advice to give, but you have to be the judge of that and decide if it's relevant to your life and if it's relevant for you to put into your repertoire and on your tool belt. Because if you allow every piece of advice and every piece of criticism and judgment to pass through your brain and into your soul, oh gosh, you're going to get nowhere. Because you're going to be crippled by anxiety and emotion, and you're just going to feel that to your core because these are people that you love, and you're so worried about what they're saying that you're not going to be able to overcome those feelings and emotions. So that is my greatest advice is whatever you can do to get yourself to this mindset and to this point to just be like, that's not the life I want. Like, thank you so much for your thoughts, but this is my life. This is how I want to live. These are the decisions that I'm making. And as long as I'm not hurting anybody else or putting, my kids or whoever in harm's way, it doesn't matter. What you say doesn't matter because I don't want your life. This is my life. This is how I want to live. And I'm okay with that. And I still love you, but this is the life that I want. And do you see how much more power that gives you and how much power that takes away from whoever is saying whatever they're saying? Yeah, try it. I think you'll be surprised. If you can reframe your mind that way, I really think you'll be surprised. And this it's not something that happens overnight, but if you try it and you can just see how much power that gives you back, I think you'll be surprised. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. It is finally starting to snow. So now that the ground is like soaking wet, we'll see if it actually sticks. But this is the Mile 17 podcast. My name is Colton. I am your host. And you can find me on social media. Come along on the Instagram journey at ColtonLord17. You can also find me on TikTok at ColtonLord17. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm really loving YouTube. If you just Facebook search Colton Lord, you should be able to find me. Oh, my eye's twitching. All right. So, with that, I hope you all have an absolute beautiful, fabulous, amazing day. And I can't wait to see you soon. I hope that this episode helped you. If you gained anything from it or you felt or resonated with it, please share something on your stories, on your social media, share it with a friend, with a family member, and let's keep this community growing. I am loving this. I'm so glad to be here and to just kind of help you wherever I can. I'm petting my dog because she keeps whining if I don't. So, all right, everybody. Have a great one. Much love. Talk to you later. Bye.